Jane and Anne? Are Jane and Anne overweight?
No, Jane and Anne aren't overweight.
No, Jane and Anne
overweight.
aren't overweight.
No, Jane and Anne
Are they
aren't
slim?
overweight. Yes, they are slim.
Yes, they're slim. Are they slim or overweight?
They're slim.
They're slim. Two years ago, were they slim?
No, 2 years ago they wasn't slim.
No, they weren't slim 2 years ago. 2 years ago, were they slim or overweight?
Two years ago they was overweight.
2 years ago, they were overweight. Are they still overweight now?
No, they are no longer
No,
overweight
they aren't.
now.
Now, they're no longer overweight. Did they used to be overweight?
Yes, that's correct. They were used to be.
Yes, that's correct. They used to be overweight. When were they overweight?
They were overweight 2 years ago.
They were overweight 2 years ago. Two years ago, were Jane and Anne both overweight?
Yes, 2 years ago, Jane and Anne were both overweight.
Yes, that's correct. 2 years ago, Jane and Anne were both overweight. Were they equally overweight?
Yes.
No, they
no.
weren't equally overweight.
No, they wasn't equally overweight. One of them was more overweight than the other.
One of them was more overweight than the other. Was Anne more overweight than Jane?
No, Anne wasn't more overweight than Jane.
Anne wasn't more overweight than Jane. Who was more overweight than the other?
Well, Jane was more overweight than Anne.
Jane was more overweight than Anne. Was Jane a little overweight or very overweight?
Jane was very overweight.
Well, Jane was very overweight. What about Anne? Was Anne a little overweight or very overweight?
Well, Anne was a little overweight.
Anne was a little overweight. Tell me again, who was more overweight than the other?
Well, Jane was more overweight than
Jane
Anne.
was more overweight than Anne. Is Jane still overweight?
No, Jane is no longer
No,
overweight.
Jane is no longer overweight. Is Anne still overweight?
No, Anne is no longer overweight.
No,
either.
Anne is no longer overweight. Did Jane and Anne used to be overweight?
Yes, Jane and Anne used to be
Yes,
overweight.
Jane and Anne used to be overweight. When were they overweight?
They were overweight 2 years ago.
They were overweight 2 years ago. How overweight were they?
Well, Jane was very overweight and Anne was little overweight.
Well, Jane was very overweight and Anne was a little overweight. Now, I'm going to ask questions about Kay and her brother Tom. When Kay and Tom were little, do they think Superman was real?
No, when Kay and Tom were little, they didn't think that Superman
was real when they were little. Who do they think was real when they were little?
They thought the Santa Claus was real when they were
When they
little.
were little, they thought Santa Claus was real. Did they think zombie was real?
No, they didn't think zombies was real.
No, they did think zombie was real. Who does it think was real?
They thought Santa Claus was real.
They thought Santa Claus was real. When Tom was a boy, did he have a friend named Nick?
Yes, when Tom was a boy, he had a friend named Nick.
Yes, that's correct. When Tom was a boy, he had a friend named Nick. What did Nick tell him one day?
Nick tell him that the Santa
One
Claus
day,
wasn't real.
Nick told him that Santa Claus wasn't real. Did Nick tell him that Superman wasn't real?
No, Nick didn't tell him that the Superman wasn't real.
No, Nick didn't tell him that Superman wasn't real. Did Nick tell him that zombies weren't real?
No, Nick didn't tell him that the zombie wasn't real.
No, Nick didn't tell him that zombies weren't real. What did Nick tell him?
Nick told him that the Santa Claus wasn't real.
Nick told him that Santa Claus wasn't real. When Tom realized that Santa Claus wasn't real, did he feel angry?
No, when Tom realized the Santa Claus wasn't real, he didn't feel angry.
No, that's not how we felt. When Tom realized that Santa wasn't real, he didn't feel angry. Did he feel embarrassed?
No, he didn't feel embarrassed.
No, he didn't feel embarrassed. How did he feel?
He felt surprised and
He
sad.
felt surprised and sad at the same time. Who was surprised and sad at the same time?
It was Tom. Tom was
It was
surprised
Tom. Tom was
and
surprised and sad at the
time.
same time. When Tom got home that day, what did he do?
When Tom got home that day, he told Kate that Santa didn't actually exist.
When Tom got home that day, he told Kate that Santa didn't actually exist. Did he tell Kate that their parents were sick?
No, he didn't tell Kate that their parents were
No,
sick.
he didn't tell Kate that their parents were sick. Did he tell Kate that ghosts didn't actually exist?
No, he didn't tell Kate that the ghost didn't actually exist.
No, he didn't tell Kate that ghosts didn't actually exist. What did he tell Kate?
He told Kate that the Santa Claus didn't actually
He told
exist.
Kate that Santa didn't actually exist. When Kate realized that Santa didn't exist, did she laugh?
No, she didn't laugh when she realized the Santa Claus
No,
didn't exist.
Kate did laugh when she realized that Santa didn't exist. What happened when she realized that Santa didn't exist?
When she realized the Santa didn't exist, she cried for almost an hour.
When she realized that Santa didn't exist, she cried for almost an hour. Does she cry for just a few minutes?
No, she didn't cry for just a few minutes.
No, she didn't cry for just a few minutes. How long did she cry?
She cried for almost an hour.
She cried for almost an hour. Was it Tom who cried for almost an hour?
No, it wasn't Tom who cried for
No,
almost an hour.
it wasn't Tom who cried for almost an hour. Who cried for almost an hour?
Kate cried for almost an hour.
It was Kate. Kate cried for almost an hour.
It was Kate. Kate cried for almost an hour.
Now, I'm going to ask questions about two sisters named Grace and Emma. Do Grace and Emma have pets?
Yes, Grace and Emma have pets.
Yes, Grace and Emma have pets. Are their pets dogs?
No, their pets aren't dogs.
No, their pets aren't dogs. Are their pets cats?
No, their pets aren't cats.
No, their pets aren't cats. What kind of animal are their pets?
Their pets are
spiders. How many spiders do they have?
They have 3 spiders. They have
3 spiders. Do they think their spiders are scary?
No, they
don't think their spiders are scary. What do they think about their spiders?
They think the spiders are cute.
Well, they think their spiders are cute. When Grace and Emma were young, were they afraid of birds?
No, when Grace and Emma were young, they wasn't.
No, they weren't afraid of birds when they were young. Were they afraid of dogs?
No, they wasn't afraid of dogs.
No, they weren't afraid of dogs. What were they afraid of?
They were afraid of spiders.
They were afraid of spiders. When they were young, did they think spiders were cute?
When they were young, they didn't think that spiders were cute.
No, they didn't think spiders were cute when they were young. Did they think spiders were interesting?
No, they didn't think the spiders were interesting.
No, they didn't think spiders were interesting. What did they think about spiders?
They thought spiders was really
They
scary.
thought spiders were really scary. Who thought spiders were scary?
Grace and Emma thought the spiders
Grace
were
and
really
Emma
scary.
thought spiders were scary. Did Grace and Emma watch a cartoon one day?
Yes, Grace and Emma watched the cartoon
Yes,
one
they
day.
did. Grace and Emma watched a cartoon one day. Was the cartoon about dogs?
No, the cartoon wasn't about dogs.
No, the cartoon wasn't about dogs.
The cartoon
Was the cartoon about cats?
No, the cartoon wasn't about cats.
No, the cartoon wasn't about cats either. What was the cartoon about?
The cartoon was spiders.
The cartoon was about spiders.
The cartoon was about
Were there spiders in the cartoon?
Yes, there were spiders in the cartoon.
There were spiders in a cartoon. While watching the cartoon, did they feel bored?
No, while watching the cartoon,
No,
they didn't
feel bored while watching the cartoon. Was the cartoon boring?
No, the cartoon wasn't boring.
No, the cartoon wasn't boring.
No, the
Was the
cartoon wasn't
cartoon
boring.
funny?
Yes, the cartoon was funny.
Yes, the cartoon was funny. Was the spiders in the cartoon scary?
No, the spider in the cartoon wasn't scary.
No, the spiders in the cartoon weren't scary. Were the spiders in the cartoon cute?
Yes, no, there were.
Yes,
Yes,
the spiders in the cartoon
Yes, the spiders in the cartoon were cute.
were cute. Before they watched the cartoon, were they afraid of spiders?
They were spiders. They were spiders. They were afraid of. They were afraid of spiders before they watched the cartoon.
Scary. Was the cartoon boring? Yes, the spiders in the cartoon were cute. Before they watched the cartoon, were they afraid of spiders?
Yes, before they watched the cartoon, they were afraid of spiders.
Yes, that's correct. Before they watched the cartoon, they were afraid of spiders. What happened after they watched the cartoon?
After they watched the cartoon, their fear of spiders was
After they watched the
completely
cartoon,
gone.
the fear of spider was completely gone. After they watched the cartoon, were they still afraid of spiders?
No, they were they no longer they were
No,
they are
they
no
weren't.
longer
After they
afraid
watched
of
the cartoon,
spiders.
they were
After
no
they
longer
watched
afraid
the
of
cartoon.
spiders. Watch the cartoon. After they watched the cartoon, the fear of spider was completely gone. After they watched the cartoon, were they still afraid of spiders?
No, after they watched the cartoon, they wasn't.
No, they weren't. After they watched
were
the
no
cartoon,
longer
they were no longer afraid of spiders.
afraid of spiders.